Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our Halloween game number 1. Unfortunately, I didn't update the background of it to be more Halloween themed. Back with us again this week, we have Braxton playing Valgavoth, Harrower of Souls. I had told everybody we're going to do Halloween tribes, but he wanted to play a Duskmourn Precon, and since that's a Halloween set, I let him have it. Again with us today, we have Judson. He's borrowing his cousin's Reaper King deck. This deck is really cool with a secret layer Reaper King, which just play a bunch of scarecrows, a couple changelings, blow everything up. We have a new guy with us. His name is Damian. He's playing Captain Negathrid, and I am here today playing my Dracula the Voyager. This deck intends to play as many white-black good stuff vampires and just kind of win with beatdown. Without further ado, let us begin. The Great Life Gain app decides Damian is going first. Pre-game is a ley line of the Guild Pack. Turn 1, Damian plays a Swamp. Judson plays Path of Ancestry. I play Unclaimed Territory naming Vampires, casting a Soul Ring. And Braxton plays a Foreboding Ruins revealing a Mountain. Our second time around is a Tap Sunken Hollow, a Ketria Triome, a Command Tower into Dracula the Voyager, and a Mountain for a Ruby Medallion. As a Thought Vessel, Dusk Legion Sergeants, and a Case of the Stash Skeleton, and Valgavoth, Harrower of Souls. Our next trip around the table is an Arcane Signet, a Peely-Paula from Judson, Sigarda Splendor, followed up by Bartholomew del Presidio, I gain a life and lose a life, triggering Valgavoth, and then a Prismatic Lens, casting a Dark Ritual, casting a Persistent Constrictor. Damian's turn as a Mind Flayer, stealing the Persistent Constrictor. On Judson's turn, the Persistent Constrictor kills the Peely-Paula, drawing a card for the Valgavoth player. Then he casts a Molten Reflections. On my turn, I then draw an extra card because the Sigarda summons. -1/-1 counter is put onto my commander. Next I cast the Vein Ripper, exiling Persistent Constrictors. This puts a +1/+1 counter on each of my creatures, removing the -1/-1 counter from Edgar. On Braxton's turn, he moves straight to combat and attacks me with Valgavoth. I block with the Vein Ripper and sacrifice it to Bartholomew, and then cast a Command Sphere, followed up by Carter Doomscourge. This turn starts off with a non-kick Everflowing Chalice, followed up by Captain Negathrid. He then attacks Judson for 3, milling him 3 cards. On Judson's turn, he pays 2 mana to foretell a Scarecrow, and then cast a Realm Walker. My turn, I play a Queen's Bay Paladin, bringing back the Vein Ripper with a Finality counter, destroying Valgavoth, paying ward cost. I then attack Judson for 11. On Braxton's turn, he starts out by playing Mind Stone. He then attacks Judson for 4 with Carter. And then he casts a Blasphemous Act. In response, I cast a Flawless Maneuver. Braxton then casts a Chaos Warp on my Vein Ripper in response, hitting a Swamp, and Braxton finishes his turn off with Rakdos, Lord of Riots. Our next time around the table, Damian just plays his land and passes the turn. Judson slams out the Reaper King, trying to destroy the Queen's Bay Paladin, which I sacrifice to give my creatures persist. He then plays a Scorn Effigy, destroying Bartholomew and my Case of the Stash Skeleton. My turn, I drop out a Bloodletter of Akhlazotz and Dracula Immortal. I then attack, bringing back Dusk Legion Sergeants, which Judson blocks with the Scorn Effigy and a token copy before we realize the copy was exiled at his end step. Braxton starts out by hitting Damian for 6 with Rakdos and dropping it back out Valgavoth. He then casts a Bloodseeker and a Mayhem Devil, and then he sacrifices his Mind Stone and Command Sphere, shooting me for 1 and the Dracula. Our next time around, Damian plays a Sewer Nemesis, naming Braxton. On Judson's turn, he shocks in a Watery Grave, and then casts Teleportation Circle. follows that up with Max Vandal exiling Ruby Medallion and Sigarda's Splendor. Then when they enter, he destroys Rakdos and Valgavoth, losing a total of 6 life here. And then at end step, he flickers the Masked Vandal. When it enters, he tries to blow up Bloodseeker and Queen Bay's Paladin. In response, I sacrifice the Dusk Legion Sergeant to give my creatures persist, and then I sacrifice the Queen's Bay Paladin to put a +1/+1 counter onto Bartholomew. On my turn, I play a High Society Hunter, and then attack Judson with the Bloodletter of Akhlazotz and a Dracula Blood Immortal, making it 14 damage, killing Judson. Braxton's turn is a Sign in Blood targeting himself, drawing 2 and losing 2, and then a Bedevil targeting the Bloodletter, which I sacrifice to Bartholomew. Damian's turn, he plays a Sludge Monster, putting a counter onto my Queen's Bay Paladin, which I sacrifice. He then attacks me with his Sewer Nemesis, which I block with my commander, sacrificing it. Braxton directs 1 damage with his Mayhem Devils at my Dracula Blood Immortal, which I also sacrifice. My turn, I play an Accursed Duneyard, and then I play an Inspiring Leader, and I sacrifice my Coffin of Native Earth, putting a counter on Bartholomew, and recast my commander. And then I hit Braxton for 5 with High Society Hunter. On Braxton's turn, he just plays his commander Valgavoth and passes.
On Damian's turn, he plays a Dimir Signet and then casts Maskwood Nexus. Moving to combat, attacks me with both of his creatures for 15. I block the Sewer Nemesis with a 1/1 Vampire. I then Slaughter Pact the Sludge Monster. In the end step, I sack a Blood Token, discarding a Swamp, taking 1 from the Mayhem Devil. Moving to my turn, pay for the Pact and draw. I then cast Bloodthirsty Conqueror and move to combat, hitting Braxton for 13. Braxton's turn, he casts Wound Reflections and follows it up with a Gleeful Arsonist. Damian casts Incorrect Wake, taking 1 from Gleeful Arsonist, and I regenerate my Bloodthirsty Conqueror. He then attacks me for 12, and I lose another 12 from Wound Reflections. On my turn, I put a counter onto my commander, making a Vampire token, and cast a Bishop of Rebirth. I then hit Braxton for 5, gaining 5. Braxton's turn is a Blood Pact and a Mana Barbs. Damian's turn is a Psionic Ritual for Incorrect Wake, and I regenerate my Bloodthirsty Conqueror. He then hits me for 13 with a Sewer Nemesis, and I lose another 13 to the Wound Reflection. My turn, I hit Braxton for 5 and pass the turn. Braxton's turn is a Lord of Pain, taking some damage from his Mana Barbs, and I gain that much life. Damian then casts his commander, hitting me for 5 from the Lord of Pain. My turn, we put the final counter on my commander, flipping him, and I finish Braxton off with the Bloodthirsty Conqueror. I then cast Elenda, Saint of Dust, and pass the turn. Damian casts a Brainstealer Dragon and makes a changeling with the Maskwood Nexus. Passing to me, I play a Dusk Legion Duelist and full send at Damian. He blocks the Bloodthirsty Conqueror, Elenda, and my commander, taking 8, and I gain 21. In Damian's last turn, he plays a Guilt Feeder and makes another changing with the Maskwood Nexus and passes to me. I cast Welcoming Vampire and full send, ending the game.
And then full send again. Yeah, because I've got 6 creatures, you got 3 blockers. And the biggest one's in the air for 6.
Well, this concludes our week 1 of our 4 videos for Halloween this month. There was a few interesting things that occurred. First of all, we are sorry that we missed so many triggers because of the Valgavoth deck adding so many triggers to the game with Mana Barbs and Wound Reflections. Around the end, I should have actually had around 15 to 20 more life than I actually did because of the Wound Reflections. That wasn't caught. Ah well. Other things that occurred here, We feel a little bad for taking Judson out in the first 6 turns of the game, but he did blow up half the board with his Reaper King and was going to keep blowing stuff up. We made sure to have a Rule 0 conversation with him about not blowing up lands, since this is supposed to be a bracket 1 and 2 game. Blowing up lands puts it in 3 or 4. So there was a discussion on that beforehand. Rule 0 is a very important discussion, guys. I'd like to thank the players we had this week, especially Damian, he was just kind of there when we were starting to record because we had an issue with one of our players not being able to show up. And so he is a newer player, so we gave him a bit more benefit of the doubt for his activations and stuff, like that non-kicked Everflowing Chalice, but what can you do, right? The Valgavoth deck ended up putting a lot of work in this game. He's single-handedly lowered each of our life totals by probably around half before I started beating on people. I think he single-handedly did 40 damage to me, but because I was gaining so much life, it kind of negated it out. This was a rough game for some of us, and it was hard to get past the vampires coming back constantly, but they almost pulled through. Got really close there at the end. I'd like to thank you all for coming. Thank you all for watching the video all the way to this point. Make sure you like, subscribe, ring the notification bell so you see when our weekly uploads are happening. Usually it's around Saturday at 12. We're hoping to have 2 weekly uploads now, since we've got a few more backup players. And until next week, just remember, stay gold.